Hello, everybody. Go, Felipe.
No, you go. You tell. I don't know what number it is now.
I don't know what number we're at. I think maybe it's 25, episode 25.
Episode 25, people.
Wow, good vintage.
And we have Dave Stark. Yes! Woo! I've never met you properly, so this is nice.
Yes, I know. This is nice. Absolutely. I certainly know how to leave, comments that, hopefully make people laugh without spitting out their coffee. But
Yeah.
the good part of social media, besides sharing this stuff,
Yes. Dave is not a troll of anybody. He's
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I wanted to just kick off with a quote from you, because I was looking at your new Drumming Lab website.
Okay.
This is what you say. You say, the only way to truly help someone to get better is to first make them aware of what they're doing wrong, so we can both figure out a way for you to make it right. It all starts with identifying and eliminating tension. I love that, and I agree 100%.
Thank you.
And I have a question about it.
Okay.
How do you strike a balance between identifying the problems and, not disheartening or discouraging the student?
Well, I'll preface it that the first one who brought this up to me, who I know you guys know and are friends and did this with, was Don Famularo. And during my very first lesson with him, I think I was 16, I had no idea. I'd been playing drums for a long time, but at that point in my life, there were so many little things holding me back where I was fighting myself, just tension. And Don got me to loosen up, and I always like to tell the story that, he went through this whole Zen thing and sitting on the drum throne. He's like, sit down. He's like, just relax, do all this. And he's walking around behind me, walking around the room, kind of talking me through it. And then he's just like, wham, it just pushed me. And I went flying off the drum throne. And like these days, it'd be like a class action lawsuit against, the teacher, the school we were at, and everything. But he was like, good. He's like, you were relaxed if you resisted, But it was the tension in my hands, the tension in my arms, tension and I think as drummers, there's this physical side to drumming. And when we're young, we learn to run or ride a bicycle or do something. If we want to run faster, what do? You tighten up and you kind of really go for it. You push yourself. And with drumming, it's the exact opposite. So at some point, it helps to have somebody just point those things out. And it's probably one of the biggest things I do with students. And I used to wait until they were more advanced before I present this stuff. And I realized I'm like, why? Why am I waiting? Like even with my son, when he really started taking an interest, I had him, just getting a stick to bounce and flow without fighting himself. So once I could take a student and kind of do that with them, and I try to do it, in a way, and I tell them my own story, but I always look at it like there's a before part, before you learn this stuff, and then after, and everything is different when it finally takes hold. You can constantly fine tune it, but I can see those little sparks going off, in students when they're like, wow, and there's sometimes a frustration point. I definitely had a frustration level where I was stuck in my old way and I didn't really have the new way down yet. And I was too focused on I was playing gigs. So we're playing bands at 16 years old, and I'd be looking at my hands while I was playing as opposed to just letting things kind of flow naturally. And I think I've learned to point these things out, and every student's going to have their own path. But it's cool just doing, like I did a master class not last week, the weekend before, and I got so many messages from people. That was one I did in the Philippines from students that it just opened their eyes, and that's the first beginning for them. Let them the first step is becoming aware, you know, because we don't know that we're fighting ourselves. We're making almost everything we do harder. So that's the long explanation. Sorry.
It's great. I would have I have a question because you touched on something that's very important, and sometimes I myself as a teacher have some difficulty with the students, where it's like it's your old self that you're used to it for a long time, and then you didn't get your new self down yet,
Right.
and there's the frustration, obviously. How do you advise the students to to be patient and kind of realize that one day the these two guys are going to meet and they're going to become one again?
Right. Um, Kind of like I was describing before, I try to use myself as a personal reference or other students that I've had that they may know who's somewhat famous or whatever, and can tell them, look, they went through that same thing. Just trust the process. And I also explain them, like, if you ever chew, I'll use analogies. So if you ever, I'll say something like, if you ever chew on one side of your mouth and you start chewing on the other side, it feels weird. But if you do it 2 or 3 days in a row, it's the new normal, you know. So I was like, eventually it will be the new normal. Um, and I'm more aware now of telling students practice this stuff. There's the athletics part of, like, if somebody wants to play what you guys call football and we call soccer or something, and people don't just show up game day and suit up, men or women, and go out on the field and start kicking a ball and passing and trying to score. There's conditioning. So I tell them, like, the pad work, that's your conditioning. And when it's time to play drums, just play drums. Forget about your hands. And I kind of wish I had a little bit more of that advice early on, and I try to be aware. Like your question is, I try to really be aware of telling my students, especially when they're a couple weeks into it, of when you're playing drums, just if you look over, your hands are upside down, and just don't worry, things will change naturally. But just play, just have fun and play, and make the music sound good, and because I went through this whole thing like big Vinnie Colaiuta freak. I'd see his hands always like this perfect thing, and I'd be in the middle of playing, and I would just like look to see if I was hitting that ride cymbal, and I'd stop it. Not stop it. I'd be in the middle of a gig, instead of listening to what the bass player is doing or just nuances in this song. I'm worried that people are in the audience thinking I look like Vinnie Colaiuta. Like, hey, a couple of my drumming buddies are there. That's a big thing I go off on too. But it's like, who are you playing for? But like I would do that stuff, and still in my 20s, my early 20s, I'm not sure where, but probably around 25 or 27, I like snapped out of caring what my hands looked like to anybody else watching me. Like it was, I've had students point out to me, hey man, I was watching that thing you're doing. Your hands I'm like, yeah, if I'm playing, if I have to hit something with my elbow to make it feel right, sloppy, I'm going to do that. As long as I'm pretty aware now after doing so long, if I'm going to hurt myself and if I'm loose. There's more than one technique, but, just guide them through it, use analogies, talk about yourself. I talk about my own process, and just I tell them that I went through all of this, and I keep reminding that I do that a lot when I teach. I could be teaching someone, some hard Gary Chapey sticking, and I just say, I sucked at this too, and Gary would yell at me and throw beer cans at my head, and all this other stuff. But I went through it. I'm not that guy with my students who's mean, but I try to motivate through kindness, and encouraging words. But you're going to have, every student's going to go through it as you help them change their technique.
True.
Right. Well, now I'm going to ask a question that we usually wait till the end, but we're just mixing things up today. So what do you think is missing from drum education?
Missing? That's a really good question. I think, and I don't want this to come off like in a negative way, but a lot of it is there are too many paths. There's so much information out there, which is great right now. One of the things I was talking about with somebody is, like, I grew up in New York, and I had Dom, and then I had Jim Chapin, and because of that, I had exposure to any drummer I wanted. Everybody played New York City at some point. So, and we were there. We go meet them and hang, and if I can get a lesson. Now we've got this wealth of, if you reach out to most drummers, you might get a reply and be able to pick up some lessons with whomever you want. What's missing from drummer education is, and I don't have a perfect answer for this, but some type of filter to guide people or students who really want to learn through the BS, through the people who are possibly teaching who necessarily shouldn't be teaching. They might be great players. A great player doesn't make a great teacher. And just like I know some people who aren't ever really out gigging, but they're phenomenal teachers, So in drum education, since there's so much out there, you just go right on Instagram or YouTube. And for someone who's playing for a year, and let's say they want to learn how to play a songo, let's say they want to, learn how to do molar, there's a very strong chance that what they hit on for the first 10 clicks is going to be wrong. It's going to be the wrong information. Again, I don't really have the answer, but what's missing in education is some type of roadmap for, it's like, hey, come here and we'll direct you to people who are experts in these fields. Here's the perfect person to see to learn how to play odd time, or people. Here's the guy or girl you really want to hook up with to learn how to swing. Because there are some great teachers out there who I would hit up if I wanted to learn how to, learn technique. But I might not hit that person up if I wanted to learn how to swing and play jazz. They're just not the person who does it. So, again, I don't know what centralized way there is other than hopefully the ones that really care, those like us that sort out knowledge, eventually find the good ones. Because I can also look back at a lot of my earlier teachers before I got to the better ones, especially in my teens. I was given a lot of wrong information that was kind of hard to break out of. I was told by one teacher to never really work out or exercise, that I'm going to stiff it up. And he's like, you don't ever see drummers, who are all built, not that I was built up, but he gave me this information that stuck in. Like if I ever worked out with weights, it's just light weights, it would affect my playing. And no, we should all be healthy and take care of our body. I have a completely different mindset to all of that stuff now. But so what's missing is still, and is a way to direct, some type of directory to the better teachers for specific areas. And I can ask you, what do you guys think? I mean, just what is missing? I'm curious to know just what both of you think in that same question, because it's a tough one.
Kira wasn't counting on that now. She has to think.
I think, I almost think there is too much information out there. And so you can't be, I'm not copying your answer.
Right.
I do think there's so much info, it's hard to know what to do and get the fundamentals down. I feel like the fundamentals like, grip and just technique and maybe not really, they're not like look cool enough on Instagram or whatever. So I think maybe there's a lot of misinformation. So yeah, right. I'm saying the same, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I think what's missing, it's on the teacher's part, understanding the difference of the videos we see on YouTube or Instagram. What is teaching and what is just entertainment? And I saw some well-known drummers putting down some videos where people are not playing very well, but they have like 2 million views. And this guy complaining, that's rubbish, this person cannot play the drums, the technique is terrible, how come this person has 2 million views and this and that and the other. And from that person, I see that with a lot of very good teachers, is that person wasn't trying to teach anything. That person was just playing drums, being filmed, and to be honest, was lucky enough to have 2 million views.
Right.
And because it was a girl that I think she was about 17, 16, 17, I think that even though she's not a good drummer, it was amazing because she could be an inspiration for other young girls, seeing that girl so happy playing the drums.
Right.
Who cares if it's good or not?
Right.
So I think what's missing from drum education these days is the drummers to understand that the drum teachers, the professional drum teachers, to understand that YouTube and Instagram, it's basically entertainment. It's not a real life.
Right.
And then become that filter you talk about to the students. You know, oh, you see this video, it's great. Well, but if you really want to learn how to do the molar, here's a video from Dom and Jim Shaping doing the exercise. You know,
Right.
or whatever, something like that. That's
Right.
what I think.
Yeah, yeah. The perfect example. It's like if I went on, YouTube right now and said molar, want to learn molar. It's like Jim Chapin. Yeah, his whole entire video that he made with Dom in Dom's house, Dom's old house, is basically,
Yeah.
that's where that was all filmed. Like that doesn't come up first. There's some other people, whose like pinkies are almost sticking out. That like a perfect example is I got a new digital audio workstation, and it's something I always kind of taught myself, but putting together a new setup to do a bunch of stuff that I have coming up, and that I'll need for various reasons. I went on YouTube last night just on my phone, and I'm going like DAW or Cubase for dummy, and I was just like easy, like just finding like the beginner. And I was hitting on these things, and it looks like it would be a thing. And I'm like, it's already moving too fast. It says, like basic, not like I never had anyone take me through this stuff. So now I'm at the point where, I'm just going to pay. I know some people really good at it. Some other drummers, we all know a lot of famous drummers. And I'm just like, I'm just going to pay somebody for a lesson, because I know that they're experts in this, and I know that they can explain this stuff well. But YouTube for me last night was a complete waste of time. I couldn't find something that I could follow. They would just jump around to things. I'm like, whoa, where are we getting into plugins when I'm not sure how to copy and paste, this loop I created and want to play my drum. It's just it was tough. And think about the drummer that's been playing for 2 years that says, I want to learn how to play a molar stroke. I keep hearing this. I want to learn how to play, correct samba. Who knows what they're going to land on?
Yeah. Exactly. Sure.
So, I had a question. So you went to Berkeley, am I correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you went there on a scholarship.
Yes.
What was that like? What did that entail? How was the process on trying to get that?
I'm glad you asked, because I still have a lot of students that go through this process. And it's funny, I got a lot of, for years now, I actually, not, but I got like a little plaque from them once that I'd love to find it, put it up on my wall here in the studio, because I had the most students over like a 5-year period that won scholarships to go there and got admitted. And part of it was because I know exactly what they're going to ask. That really doesn't change from year to year. And to me, it's not cheating to give somebody that information up front, because you have to do the work. I can tell you exactly what it's like putting up the black page to somebody, for example, for someone who's been playing 6 months ago. And look, eventually you're going to have to learn how to, not that that's for Berkeley, but I'm saying I could show them that it's not cheating. They have to someday keep working on all the things they need to do to get there. So for me, I actually went, I knew I wanted to go there. I went and visited there when I was 16, around the time. That's what sent me to go study with Dom. I was studying with some very good teachers, and went up there to visit as a 16-year-old, 11th grade, here in the States. And I was told what the process would be like as far as auditioning for a scholarship, and I wasn't given the information, but I went sort of, we started with the hands. Then I got turned on to the place where he was working, where I eventually went on to go teach and do all that. They gave me somebody who had been to Berkeley before. Okay, this guy Don Mulvady, who sadly passed away a few years back. But Don was someone who went there, and he said, "Look, this is what he did. He did that to me. He said, this is what they're going to ask you to play a samba. They're going to ask you, or first like a bossa nova, a samba, swing time, swing in 3/4." Something they'll just throw out in our time. They might tell you to play in 5/4 or 7/8. And you don't have to nail all these things. They just want to see. Then they're going to have a sight reading part. There was like a piano player, and then they gave me a couple minutes to look at a short chart, and do that. And then they just had me improvise with the piano player, just like trade fours. So that was it, and it's still for the most part basically the same. I mean, you prepare a song also. I swear I don't even remember. I think I prepared something by like King Crimson. I think I went in there like playing something from Discipline, All Wacky All Time, whatever it was, which wasn't really jazz, but it was. What they really want to see is they want to see that someone's got a really good foundation. Okay. You don't have to be the best of the best, but also they can tell that somebody's very teachable. And I think when you see somebody who's accomplished, there's a girl guitarist, singer-songwriter here who just applied, did her scholarship audition and all this other stuff. And I know her parents, and they own a music school. And I've always been kind of mentoring her, even though she's not a drummer for like the past year or two, because she's had her laser beam focus on wanting to do the same thing. And kind of told her, starting 2 years ago, what she was going to need to do to get a scholarship if she wants one. And you know what? And I did her letter of recommendation for the school, and I just said what's true. She's extremely knowledgeable. She's a hard worker. That's what they want, and they want someone who's very teachable, someone with that open mind. Because there are some great musicians when you get there, some not so great musicians. And then you see the great musicians, just like we meet on the bandstand, who are just closed-minded. And that person might be brilliant, but the people, looking at the scholarship stuff might just say, well, we don't necessarily want to make the investment in this person because they're going to sit there and go, I know the stuff. They're looking at your attitude, your willingness. So for me, it's like I said, I had that stuff, and I didn't ace it. I didn't ace everything they did. I didn't really learn to really swing. I played what I call like high school jazz, kind of stuff. And I could read. My reading was always really well, but it wasn't until I was actually there at Berkeley and playing with stand-up bass players, and I had this one teacher who taught me to play quarter notes. He just like, I'm gonna play piano. His name's Joe Hunt. And I had him for first semester. And he goes, I just want you to think you played something from Steve Gadd. And then he goes, I just want you to go, I think round. He goes, that swings more than kind of way you're playing your ride. So they want those people who are open to saying, that's not the traditional way I learned, and just these people are trying to make me a better musician. So.
Cool, thank you.
Nice. A question about all the great teachers you had in Long Island that you mentioned, John and Al Miller and Jim Shaping.
Yep.
Is it possible to point out a single characteristic they had that it was common to all of them?
Yeah, it's another good question. First of all, I just want to say I was extremely lucky. Like looking back in life, to be born where I did at the time that I did, and to hook up with Dom and then get passed off to Chapin and have him in my life for years. And also, Al Miller was the same thing. Go see Al. For Al was someone I went to right before Berkeley, and then after when I came back, I continued working on reading. He was the guy you saw for chart reading. I mean, regardless of whatever him being, like I didn't work on Latin drum set rhythms with him. I just worked on chart reading and ways to. The single characteristic that I found with them, if you were a good student, those guys were going to give you everything. It was not just going to be this hour a week or half hour a week or 45, lesson. It was going to be, hey, Buddy Rich Big Band's playing. I'm friends with Buddy. You're coming. We're all going to load. And, I used to get in Dom's car and we'd go in the city and go see Peter Erskine. We'd go see Mike Stern play with, we'd go see Tower Power. We'd be, watching, what's the, Rock Who Died, but so many, and Dom Chapin knew everyone that gave me access. So, but they were all like that. Al Miller was like that. He had all the people he knew, So, like I said, now we have Instagram, and you can kind of reach out. You follow people, and they might comment back. It was really cool because when you have like Jim Chapin with his arm around you, going, "Oh, you got to hear this guy play," and it kind of blows up your head. But that's the thing that I saw. If you were a good student, like those guys, there was this big hang, of all of them. They were all friends with each other, and I learned that too. It's like we all help each other. This works best when we all help each other. Anything I could do for you guys, or you could, with no expectation that you're going to do it back, just to do a nice thing for another drummer, musician. That's what I learned from them. Besides drum lessons, was community. Taking care of that next group. Give them more than just that secret of playing quarter notes here to play time. Help them in every step of the way. If they're good, they still have to put in the work. But there's nothing wrong with opening or trying to open doors for people that are working hard, that want it.
Nice.
My question relates to that a little bit. So when you look back at all your teachers, is there a particular lesson that seemed like the most important or hardest to learn?
I couldn't say any one, but I could say Dom and Jim. I had a lot of lessons with both of those guys where we never played a note. It was like we'd be facing each other on the drum throw. And there were lessons I'd go in with Jim Chapin, and they were supposed to be an hour. It'd be like 10 o'clock in the morning, and there'd be someone scheduled at 11. And it would be now like 12:15. And the owner of the place would be knocking on the door like, "Jim, you got a student here, next student's here." And if we were into something, we weren't playing. Like we were just talking about drumming, talking about life. You might have been talking about some gig and some beautiful woman with a red dress, whatever it was. I was just enthralled with listening, to what they had to say, and the stories. And they both had that. And I would leave and I'd be so inspired. I'd do some of the best practicing of my life, just from these conversations. They made me understand this industry, but it'd be impossible to look back at any one lesson that stands out. But I think it's really weird. I can remember learning certain things, with the grip, but my most cherished memories of studying, especially with Jim, since he's gone. Dom's still in my life. Like I talked to him yesterday on the phone and we talk, all the time. But especially with Jim, looking back, I don't remember as much of what we did during lessons. I remember the conversations the most.
That's nice. That's nice because usually people, especially nowadays, people don't value conversation as much. They want their money worth of lessons. So,
right. And I feel guilty if I have a student for like 45 minutes and I've been yapping for like a half an hour. But like I said, those are the best lessons I've got a couple students like that were taught, and I apologize at the end. I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry we didn't get back into that 5C sticking pattern, man. We'll jump on that next week." Or I'll literally I'll make a little video clip these days with you, and you know what I'll do, man? I'll send you the next thing on it. But those guys in there, it was just, that was the lesson. We just talked, so they call it drumming therapy or drumming inspiration, and sometimes you need that, especially when you have those that really, that they really want to do this, they want to teach, or they want to play, they want to do both, like we all do. Those are the students that sometimes just need that, just that talk. Tell them about this. Tell them when they're so focused on getting some endorsement that doesn't really matter. Like, let them find you. They will. Get good. Get really good. They'll find you. Maybe that's the person you're going to introduce somebody to, just like I was introduced to different people. But you guys are making me realize that I'm guilty of kind of beating myself up for having those conversations and charging money for it, so.
No, but I agree. Like I feel like I felt the same when I'm talking to a student and I'm so aware of the time and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I shouldn't be talking as much, but I feel like what I'm saying is important and they should be trying to listen because I remember being in their shoes
right,
and my best lessons were when my teacher would just be like, hey, and like tell me a story about their experience and just
right.
encourage me a bit. But I don't know. Yeah, I do. I definitely struggle with that. Like feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be chatting. They
Right.
just want to play, and that's disappointing.
Yeah,
But the way I see it is, I think that's the human side to the lesson, because ultimately you can buy the book and do it by yourself,
hmm,
but that interaction is what makes the interaction is what made us drummers.
right,
That's the truth, you
right.
know. For
And that's
example,
why I always say, even like these online lessons work. Like if I could see somebody and see their hands and see what they're doing and kind of hear them play, um, and I kind of like that the world that wasn't, there was so many students that were never open to like, I get students, I was just telling somebody this in an email today that I sent off, and I was like, um, students that used to be like, hey, next time you get back up to New York, man, I want to book an hour or two with you. And I'd be like, let's just do it online. And now, because of this pandemic and people getting used to Zoom and going along, like seeing all these things people doing live all the time, it's opened up that world to that. But it's weird. I can have more conversations with somebody like outside of a lesson, which I almost consider lesson material, with this inspirational type stuff. But yeah, I'll just give a quick story like with that. So I have a student who's really into Rush, and he's younger. He's really, really very good player. Matter of fact, I'm teaching him today, and a little bit later. So I tell him stories about being like 12 and getting my first Rush record, and then first time seeing him live, and I did that for like 15 minutes, and I was like, I felt guilty, and we're going to do an extra 15 minutes today because I was like, I talk too much, man. Well, nobody's there for you, so I'll give you like an extra 15 minutes, which I probably didn't need to because I think he was thrilled. I was telling him in the time I met Neil and all this other stuff, and that one day that he might be doing this and somebody might ask him and he might say, hey, the coolest lesson I ever had was Dave Stark told me about finding Rush and meeting Neil Peart 10 years, or something. So, and I'm
true.
feeling guilty because I blabbed through half his lesson.
I think that's a good note to end our conversation for today, bringing the human side of drumming to the lesson, not just the notes and the stickings.
Right. And like I said, like Dom, we talked a lot. Like, I mean, he obviously, I got a lot of the molar stuff and I teach that, because I feel it needs to be taught the right way. But, just, you guys are making me kind of like put little clips in my head, and I can picture a room, like the regular room that we have, his own room at the place, but yeah, it was a conversation sitting in his car, driving into New York City and listening to some recording of Vinny Colaiuta playing with a big band, and he'd be like on a cassette deck, be like, there'd be three of us drummers, just sort of like his top students at the time, and he'd be like, where does that note fall? And this wasn't like a lesson that we were just like, and he'd be like, and we listened to it, like it's on the E of 2 of, just like 32nd note or 64th note, like where's that flag? Like I remember that vividly. I remember what car he had. I remember, who I was with. That was some pretty cool stuff. That wasn't, hey, play a stroke like this, or let's do this exercise. All that stuff is important. But like I said, that's that we get to do that with our students online or in person when we all go back into, a bit normal schedule. Maybe that's the stuff that they're going to tell people about one day.
That is the stuff they're going to tell people someday.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you very much for your time. It was an absolute pleasure. I don't know about Kira, but I've learned a lot. Thank you.
I have. Thank you, Dave. So good to meet you, finally.
Same here. Thank you guys for having me. And you know, I love that you guys are doing this and we all get to kind of record a little bit of our story and history because, and that's for all the drummers because I was scrolling through, you know, since you guys invited me to this, I watched some and I was like, you know, I learned a lot about different people who I knew but didn't really know. You know, it's kind of cool. So,
Cool.
again, for having me. Well,
Thank you.
Zoom's
All right.
gonna cut us off, so thank
You guys
you.
have a good night.
You
Okay.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye.